There's a specific sound that plays when everybody's like, oh. Hi YouTube, Maika here. So in this video, I'm going to share 10 things that I love about Black Panther. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because we all learned about Chadwick Boseman's passing away in these last few days. And I don't know about y'all, but it has really impacted me. So much so that I spent all yesterday crying, and today I decided that I want to stop that because it's not healthy for me, and to instead focus on his work in Black Panther and how it brought so much joy. And if you know anything about me, is that I love the Marvel universe. I think all of the films are really wonderful, but the Black Panther film has totally resonated with me. It felt like it was made specifically for me, and it's brought me so much joy along with so much of Chadwick Boseman's work. And this is just my little way of commemorating him and saying thank you for everything that he has given to us and through his work, and to also have a little bit of joy. So let's get into it. So first up is the intro.
Baba?
Yes, my son.
Tell me a story.
Which one?
The story of home.
One of the things that I love about Black Panther is that it starts off with a story, and not just any story. It's a story about the history of Wakanda, about how Wakanda came to be. And within the Black community and the African diaspora, oral traditions have played such a huge role in making sure that we are able to pass on the stories of the generations before us. And I just think that it's so telling that this story would begin with a smaller story in and of itself, talking about how Wakanda came to be and how it got to have vibranium, which is the most precious resource on earth in this universe. And to me, that is just like a hat tilt and a head nod to Black culture, to the Black community. And it starts off right out the gate being super Black, and I love that. The second thing I love in Black Panther is when T'Challa freezes when he sees Nakia.
Did he freeze? Like an antelope in headlights.
Even though Okoye tells him, like, look, when you see her, make sure you don't freeze. And then T'Challa's like, I never freeze. And then he sees her and proceeds to do what? Freeze. And I just love the fact that Nakia is literally wearing, like, it's not anything fancy. She's mixing in with the women that she was helping to rescue. She has her head wrap on and all. And just the sight of her alone still makes him so speechless. And I just love that moment. Like, it's just beautiful. The third thing I love in Black Panther, and I don't know if I mentioned this is in any particular order, is when Killmonger is in the museum and he's looking at the different artifacts.
It was taken by British soldiers in Benin, but it's from Wakanda, and it's made out of vibranium.
That moment it really tickled me, even though he does a crime afterwards and literally kills this woman. But that moment when he's like, no, you got it wrong. You took it from us. And did your ancestors pay for it? When he talks about taking it back, like, that was just so crazy. And I think that even in that moment of, oh my gosh, he's about to do something that is bad, it still brought me a little tickle. I don't know what it is about that point. Let me know in the comments if that was something that resonated with you. When I was watching it with the audience, everyone, and when I say the audience, I mean the audience in the movie theater. Remember those days when we were in movie theaters with other people? But it was in the movie theater and everyone kind of giggled and had a little chuckle at that scene. But it really stuck out to me as like, oh, let's talk about the history of these artifacts and how this Black guy who comes in is just admiring it knows something that this curator doesn't. So the fourth thing that I love in Black Panther is just the visuals and the symbolism. Everything about this movie from start to finish, it is so masterfully done. Like, just the imagery in it is so rich and you can't look away. It's just all so beautiful. I love when you get to the scene and T'Challa is going to engage in the ritual combat and he has the strength of the Black Panther stripped away. Oh my God. And they have like a panning of all of the different tribes and you see the different colors and the people in their traditional clothing, and it just felt so beautiful. And the wide expanse of the land, that really stuck out to me. It just made me want to go there. I want to see Wakanda in real life so that I could experience this beauty for myself. It was just so wonderfully done. I think another thing is the symbolism that is so rich throughout the entire film. The fact that vibranium, which is the most important and precious material on Earth, is found on the African continent. I just feel like that speaks volumes, that it shows that something that's so precious and that would be precious the world over comes from Africa, and that it's Black people who are curating something that is so precious. That really stuck out to me. Next, we have the music. The music in Black Panther is so flawless. I listened to the soundtrack and from start to finish, you just can't help but just be taken along for the ride. Like, it's just so good. But also the other elements of the film, like the sounds that they incorporate. One of the things that I love is like when they are going to engage in like ritual combat or they're going into Wakanda, there's a specific sound that plays when everybody's like, you know, like that sound alone is so good. Like, honestly, I was sitting doing my homework and I heard a commercial where the sound effect came on and I literally was like, what's going on? It was like a weird call to action that I had to look at the TV screen, but just that sound alone is so beautiful to me. The sixth thing that I love in Black Panther is that every time T'Challa introduces himself, he says, I am T'Challa, son of T'Chaka. Like, he never just is alone. And I think that is so powerful. It talks about legacy and how the people before you helped pave the way for you to be there today. And it's just something that throughout the film, T'Challa holds that as a part of himself. But what I think is even more powerful than that is when T'Challa comes to realize that although he admired his father and so many of his ancestors, they have made mistakes. And there are things that they did that he would have done differently. And he takes the opportunity that he's given to not just follow in his ancestors' footsteps blindly. He decides to do things on his own, and he decides to do what he believes is right. And I feel like that is a lesson that we can all take for ourselves, that we come the way that we are because of all the sacrifices and the decisions that our ancestors before us made. But we have the opportunity to then take those sacrifices, those decisions that they made hopefully to our benefit, to then take it a step further and to do what we think is right. The seventh thing that I love in Black Panther is the ancestral plane. I love that, you know, as a Black person, this idea that we are able to tap into our ancestors who came before us. And now all we have to do is take a moment in solitude to be able to quietly go into ourselves and find and accept and understand the people who came before us. Now in Black Panther, I think it is a point of privilege that the only person who's able to do this and actually have a two-way conversation is the king. And that shows, you know, something that a lot of people don't realize, that it is a privilege for you to be able to go back and trace your lineage and be able to call on your ancestors or to see the people who came before you and to learn from their mistakes and to then craft your own future. But in Wakanda, the only person who has access to that is the person who is king. And I think that is powerful. It shows how, like, for Black people, we don't have that ability, a lot of people in the, you know, throughout the diaspora, the African diaspora, to be able to go back and trace your lineage to know where you came from. There's a point where we just don't know where our ancestors came from exactly on the continent. And I think in that moment of T'Challa being able to go back and access the ancestors, it's something that we all wish that we could have, that we can tap into the people who came before us and learn why they did certain things, or to ask them certain things after we have come to our own discoveries on our own. But that ability to tap into the ancestral plane, I love it. I also love how it looked, the purple, how it's dark, how the ancestors, when they are in their spirit form, they're all Black Panthers, like actual Black Panthers, and then they transform into their humanness to show that there is this innate power within you. Magic. The eighth thing that I love in Black Panther is Okoye, Nakia, the Dora Milaje, the powerful female representation. Like, first of all, let's talk about the Dora Milaje. A powerful army full of bald Black women. Like, y'all know how I love talking about being bald, so, you know, bear with me. But honestly, to see a film of so many beautiful Black women who are just, their heads are shaved bald and they're totally the badasses throughout the film, that resonated with me. When I walked out of watching Black Panther the first time, I literally felt, you know, a little extra, you know, I had to carry my head a little bit higher so people could see the baldness of it all. But in all seriousness, like, I just love the beauty of it, and also the different hair styles that were shown throughout that. You can have someone who's, you know, a woman who was bald and still beautiful, or you have, you know, your Bantu knots, or you have the other traditional hairstyles that were featured throughout the film, and, you know, both men and women, and, you know, everybody in between. But I really love that. I love that it's also the women who are kind of, as it so happens, throughout history that the women are really behind the scenes making sure that things are kind of going along. Now, there's something to be said about putting the woman in front of the scene, which, you know, we could get into another day. And in that moment when Killmonger is the one who's ruling over Wakanda, everyone believes that T'Challa is dead. It's the women who are really stepping up and trying to figure out how they can save Wakanda. And that, to me, is just powerful. The female representation in this film really stood out to me, and how you can have women from all spectrums. You had someone who was the queen, you had people who were just, you know, the regular everyday people. And I think it was so beautiful to see that highlighted throughout this film. The ninth thing that I love in Black Panther is M'Baku and Shuri. I called them out specifically because I think they are a beautiful representation of tradition and technology and the future. When M'Baku comes and he essentially engages in ritual combat with T'Challa, one of the things that he says is that you have allowed your technological advances to be governed by a child. And I think it is a great way of showing how tradition and what people believe things should be and what that looks like. So in M'Baku, who, a small aside, the actor who plays M'Baku, fine. Like, I mean, just seeing him on the screen, I was like, who is that? Who is that? He looks good. Like, who that? But yeah, so M'Baku essentially represented tradition, and he does a really good job of that. And he was also a very hilarious character. Conversely, we have Shuri, who is young. She's into tech. She is able to help the country of Wakanda to be able to have so many technological advances, and the ability for her to then take that, all of the things that she discovers, and to then take that and create things to protect her brother, things to protect her country. I feel like that's so powerful. And in the end, you find that it's the tradition and the technological advances that essentially kind of come together and allow Wakanda to be what it is. And the 10th thing that I love about Black Panther is just that it makes you think. It makes you imagine. It makes you believe that there is, you know, not that there's a place out there for, you know, only Black people, but the ability to imagine a world where Black people are the leads, where Black people are the kings and the queens, and that they hold something that is so precious to the entire world, and that sometimes it might take a little bit of digging inside of you for you to find that. And to me, that is just a parallel to the lives that we live, especially as Black people. Sometimes you don't always feel that the world is open to you, or that the world wants to see you thrive. But here is this world that is of, you know, of an imaginary world, but it allows us to believe that, what would that look like? And I also love the fact that Black Panther makes you think. One of the things that I have always thought about is, in this time of slavery, why didn't anyone come back? Like, what did anybody come back? Which is something that I'm actually going to start researching to find out a little bit about. But what did that look like when people on the continent found out what was happening to the people who were taken from there and brought over to the United States, the Caribbean, and all of the other places where African slaves were brought to? Like, what did that look like, and what did that feel like? And I thought it was also interesting how, even though Killmonger was technically Wakandan through his father, he still wasn't accepted. And I think that is something that we can all take a moment to reflect on. Sometimes it doesn't always feel like, are we Black enough? Are we African enough? Even though you are removed from the continent, does that remove any of the beautiful and the beauty that comes from being such a wonderful and powerful people? That is something that we can all consider. And I love the imagery and the messaging that is interspersed throughout Black Panther. And one of my favorite scenes is the way in which Black Panther ends, where T'Challa is giving a speech, and he says that we have to make sure that we are, and I'm paraphrasing here, so, you know, don't quote me directly, you can watch the film for that, but he's essentially saying that, you know, weak-minded people create barriers, but people who are trying to see towards the future build bridges. And that is, honestly, if that's not a message for something that we could use in our daily lives today, I don't know what is. And it shows that even when you have some place, a magical place like Wakanda that has all of these technological advances and has been hoarding it for themselves, that there comes a point where you're like, you know what? It's not enough for us to only hold this power. We aren't free until all of us are free. Thank you for watching this video where I shared 10 things that I love about Black Panther. It was my way of commemorating Chadwick Boseman and to honestly say thank you for being a part of something that is so impactful to so many people. And I know that, you know, we are all collectively grieving. This has really been a tough year, and this loss on top of it all just makes it feel almost too much to bear. But we're in this together. And if there's anything that Chadwick Boseman's body of work has showed us, is that even in the small moments that we have together, we can still create so much change and impact so many people and just really leave the world better than the way that we received it. And I think that's just such a beautiful legacy. So tell me, what do you love about Black Panther and any of Chadwick Boseman's body of work? I would love to hear this. This was just my way of trying to bring a little bit of joy in a time of so much sadness. So please be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the interwebs. And of course, remember, Wakanda forever.